I want to rewind to the sleep thing because this is something I struggle with a lot. So, and I imagine it's very common in people that have goals and aspirations that maybe have stretched the unrealistic boundary a little bit there as well. Head hits the pillow and the brain just, the stress, the what tomorrow, the this or that. I've done I've started to do the whole like journal and write some things down, and it definitely helps a little bit. But what are some other things that people can be doing if they're struggling with their sleep on that sort of level?
Well, so that's the main. So I'll go back a step. So as I said earlier, that there are a whole bunch of sleep disorders, but if we just talk about insomnia, which again makes up, I think 80% or more than 80% of sleep disorders, and then within insomnia, 80 and 90% is caused by worrying, racing mind, etc. Is what we referred to. So this is most people who have sleep difficulties will experience something like what you've just described. And so the answer then is learning to manage those worrying, ruminating thoughts or those stresses in other ways. So how do we do that? There's a couple of ways to do that. Firstly, it's not easy. Well, it's easier said than done. I think that is important to state because when I get to describing the solutions, they can sound, like you said earlier, the difference between simple and easy, they can sound relatively simple, and they are in some ways, but anyone that's tried any of this knows that it's easier said than done. So I just wanted to preface this by saying, I know, and I still have trouble sleeping at times. I'm a lot better than I used to be. But even someone who's quote unquote an expert, it's still difficult. So to come back, there's a couple of things that can really help. One of the most important things for sleep is routine. So having a good sleep. And I know you've probably got a younger audience out there, but anyone that's been a parent of a younger child, like a baby, an infant, knows how important routine is to sleep. It's one of the most important things that's recommended all the times when you've got a baby, for those first few years, is routine. And that includes sort of a warm up to sleep period and then the sleep period. But what people forget is that we're still essentially the same. We're, biologically the same. And routine is just important to us as adults as it is to those babies and infants. So what does that routine involve? So let's just say, I'm just going to, again, make an arbitrary number. Let's just say your sleep time is 10 p.m., but obviously that can vary again. But it's, it's probably a pretty average for many, many people. So, but obviously adjust this up or down depending on where. There's no perfect answer to that. But let's just say your sleep time, and this is when you want to go to sleep, which is not the same as going to bed, is 10 p.m. What we know from the research is that at least 90 minutes before that, you want to get off screens. So this is one of the most difficult things for everyone. So get off your screens, get off your devices as best you can, turn everything off, because there's a number of reasons for that. One, there's a very basic level of stimulation that comes from the light that comes from screens. And even though some devices these days over recent years, they've changed the type of light or changed the way, it still affects us in a way. So it sends a message to the brain that's essentially still saying, be alive, be alert, be alive, etc. So this is the ideal. Get off your devices, get off your screens, do something instead that's calming, relaxing. So ideally reading a book or talking to a partner, whatever it might be. What you want to do in those final 90 minutes, it should be as non-stimulating as possible. A hot bath in winter, obviously. Some people like smelly candles, whatever it might be, but we want to avoid or minimize all stimulation in that 90 minutes and allow our brains time to switch off, because this is something many of us forget to do. We go full on stimulation, work, whatever it might be. 10 o'clock comes, okay, put it down, go to sleep, and expect our brains to just switch off like that. It's not like flicking a switch on a light. Our brains don't work like that, or many of us don't. If you can do that, fantastic. But so we need to allow, and then even before that 90-minute period, the better we can set ourselves up. Our bodies respond to routines in all areas of life, and the more we can set ourselves up through the mid to late afternoon, early evening, to gradually, and again, I'm speaking in very general terms here because we're all different, but to gradually wind down. So whenever, again, I just totally random arbitrary number, let's just say you sort of finish work at 6 o'clock or whatever. I know it's going to vary, but from that 6 till 9 time, whatever, you want to be gradually winding down, gradually getting away from stimulation. So if it's work that's a problem, find a time when you put that down. So set a limit for yourself, whatever that might be. And again, there's no perfect answer, but let's just say, okay, from 7:30, no more work. Now, what's likely to happen then, if you do that, is, and particularly in the early stages, it's still going to come into your head. Stuff's going to pop up, ideas, and that's not entirely bad. But what I would ideally recommend then is, again, not on your device, but paper and pen. Go old school. There's something very, very different. Write it down. Just keep a notebook, keep a pad by your bed or wherever, however your house is set up, and write down these ideas. So, okay, I've got this great idea, fantastic. I don't want to lose that idea, but I'll come back to it tomorrow. Because if I work on this now, I'm going to be exhausted tomorrow and then I won't be able to do anything. So we need to be able to recognize that if we think about these things all night, it's actually not very productive. It's not very healthy. It's not good for us. Then if you do go to bed and you're lying in bed at 9:30 and that idea pops into your head again, just remind yourself, I've written it down. I'll get to it tomorrow. And you probably need to do that multiple times. The next thing that also then helps then is some form of meditation or relaxation or mindfulness practice. There's all sorts of different variations of that. We probably don't have time to go into them in detail now, but there's no doubt that learning how to, I said mindfulness, meditation, relaxation are all different but similar. The common element throughout all of that in some way or other is learning how to control our minds, or learning how to control the attention of our minds, I suppose. And so what we want to be doing at that period of time is not necessarily thinking about things that are going to distract us or disturb our sleep, but think instead of something simple, something calming, etc. So again, different things work for different people. I have a meditation practice that I've developed over many, many years, which is sort of really a combination of a variety of different things. But at nighttime, I use that regularly. And if I wake at 2 or 3 in the morning, I use that again regularly. So routine through the early afternoon. And then there's other simple things like, avoiding stimulants through the afternoon, like caffeine and energy drinks, etc. Ideally, those things can have an effect on your system for, well, depending on what they are, 5 or 6 hours. So if you're having one of those strong energy drinks or a strong coffee at, say, 4 or 5 in the afternoon, that might still be buzzing through your brain by 9 or 10, which is not ideal. Now, again, we're all different. There are some people that have a coffee after dinner and still fall asleep fine. If that's you, good luck to you. But if we're having problems and we're trying to maximize it, best, avoid stimulants after really 2 o'clock in the afternoon sort of thing, depending on roughly. Avoid stimulants, start to wind down as best you can through that sort of 4, 5, 6 p.m. time or whatever. It doesn't mean you've got to stop doing everything, but gradually let your body and your brain slow down, shift away from screens as best you can to paper and pen if you need to, and find other things to do in that evening, which again are calming rather than stimulating.
Head over to Jordan Checker Podcast to get the full exclusive experience.